They did it again. The Pacers are staying in Vegas. They are headed to the in-season tournament finals. They're playing LeBron. They're playing the Lakers. And boy, do we have a lot to talk to on today's Locked On Pacers podcast.
You are Locked On Pacers, your daily Indiana Pacers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Happy Friday, y'all. You made it through the week. Congrats and welcome into another edition of the Locked On Pacers podcast, where we, of course, talk about the in-season tournament finals-bound Indiana Pacers. As always, my name is Tony East. I cover the team for Forbes and SI, and today we have so much to get through. The Pacers beat the Bucks on the biggest stage of this young team's life so far. They're playing the Lakers on an even bigger stage tomorrow night, and they have earned all this attention they're about to get, and they have earned all the praise they're about to get from me and from others because they're playing great, and they're doing it in front of absolutely everybody, beating the Bucks in very much a Pacers game. Their speed, their tempo, their style, offensive game, it was theirs. They looked great. They were not afraid of the moment. That's what my story was about. I'll talk about that stuff a little bit. I'll talk about everybody who stepped up in the game, which basically, if you played and you're on the Pacers, guess what? You had a nice game. Not everybody, but most of the players. And the Lakers and LeBron, the Pacers' kryptonite in the postseason many a time. How fitting that he is their opponent in the in-season tournament finals. The Pacers played in that arena right behind me, still in Vegas, and will be for the championship game. Lots of people outside the arena because the Lakers game wrapped up not too long ago. They killed the Pelicans, and the Pacers crushed the Bucks. To me, the score does not indicate they crushed them, but I think they did because they looked like the better team for all of the game outside of some stretches in the third quarter. The Bucks were amazing in the third quarter. To their credit, Dame was fantastic. Giannis was amazing. Giannis was so good in the third that I thought, oh, if he can keep doing this in the fourth, the Pacers are going to lose this game. But they didn't because the Pacers were poised and ready for the moment and level-headed and played their game and their pace all night long. And they did so many things well that they don't typically do well, and they did everything well that they usually do well to get it done. And I'm going to story tell a little bit to talk about what made this win so impressive to me, right? The Pacers have been, and mostly Tyrese Halber and the aux cord user, have been a Jay-Z team pregame in the locker room this season. A lot of Jay-Z. And I go in pregame to, into the locker room as we do for media purposes. There's a Linkin Park song playing. And Tyrus wasn't in there, but I was surprised by that. Andrew Nembhard was in there. TJ McConnell was in there. Buddy Hield was in there. And then Tyrese Haliburton did come in. He changed the song. He changed it from Linkin Park to Jay-Z. And him and Buddy Hield start doing their fake little best friends bickering. And then I wanted to talk to them both because that felt very normal, right? Those two bickering, the music changed to the right music. That all felt very Pacers-y and normal. But this was not normal. This was the in-season tournament semifinals. This game was on ESPN. Mike Breen, Dorsberg, Reggie Miller on the call. That's a huge moment for the Pacers, who just had a huge moment Monday. They've had tons of media attention all week and the day before. They're playing in Vegas. Like, everything is glitzy, like I said yesterday. It's so over the top. And for those two guys specifically, never played the playoffs. So I asked Tyrese Haliburton, do you feel like the consequentialness, that's not a word, but whatever, of this game? This is the biggest game you've ever played. And he said, yeah, yes, this is bigger. It's different, right? To read my exact story, he said, no question. When I said, do you know this is going to be the most consequential game? He said, I think everybody's probably got a little extra juice. And then I talked to Buddy Hield right after. I said, do you feel normal? Like, you haven't played in a game like this before? He was like, I just can't wait to get out there. It's going to be a little different feeling-wise. I haven't had this feeling in a long time. Nerves are positive nerves. He was nervous. And he called them positive nerves. Like, he didn't seem nervous, like shaken or deterred or afraid of the moment. But he was nervous, right? These are the things that stood out to me before the game because this is what I talked about yesterday. The Pacers needed to be focused because they had a mental hurdle that a lot of the other teams here did not have to overcome, especially the Lakers and Bucks, the two teams they will have to actually play. But they do. They're young. They have not been in these situations. They have players who have. Myles Turner's been in the playoffs for the Pacers. Bruce Brown's won a championship. Jordan Ward's won a championship. Aaron Nesmith's been to the finals. But as a collective, they have not had this stage. And so I thought, with every hard punch the Bucks could throw, if you're watching on YouTube, I just pretended to throw a punch, even though I have never punched anybody ever. I thought the Pacers might fold over at any point. And so that third quarter stretch, I thought would be it. And instead, the whole game, the Pacers played like themselves and played level-headed and played even and played poised, no matter who was out there. And it was so impressive to see them not only play like that, but overcome a mental hurdle and the Bucks at the same time. It was fantastic. It was really special. And credit to everyone. But I'm going to start in this first segment before we gush about Tyrese Haliburton again. In the second one, I feel like that's half of my segments these days. Two vets set the tone and made this possible for the Pacers to settle in and play their game. And that is Myles Turner and TJ McConnell. Not the two I expected to be leading with today, but they've earned it, right? Because truly, I keep saying I think the Pacers were playing better, but they were behind in the first quarter, like 3-5, basically the whole frame. And they would have been behind much more if it weren't for the two guys I just said. The first quarter was all Myles Turner in the paint specifically. In fact, on the night, to be clear, I talked about this. A lot of people have talked about this. When you're playing Brook Lopez, you think about Myles Turner spreading it out. He took 10 twos in this game. He did take 8 threes still, which was important, even though he wasn't making them. But he took 10 twos, and that doesn't even account for his 8 free throws, right? Which is the second most of anybody in the whole game. Only Giannis took more. Him pressuring inside was huge, and he had 10 points in the first quarter. That was important for the Pacers. They established a dynamic down low. They got Turner going, and they were finding an easy way to score, right? Their threes were not falling in this game. The Pacers were 1 for 6 from deep in the first quarter. That trend continued all night. They had to pressure the basket and get inside and try to score around there. Turner did a great job of that. 10 points early, 2 assists. Yeah, 2 assists in the first frame. He was playing really well. And that was important, right? Because to me, if you're a team that, like I said, is nervous, not like nervous, like jittery nervous, but just like anxious, and you know the stage is big, there's a lot of emotions at stake. To have a vet step in like that and settle you down and play well and make you realize, okay, we got this, that's important. The other guy who has to deserve praise for being a vet and getting the Pacers out on the right foot is TJ McConnell. In the first quarter, McConnell came in, and Nembhard came in before him, and we got to unfortunately talk about Andrew Nembhard in a sad way later. He got injured in this game, but he was also awesome. He came in for Haliburton late in the first quarter, and he was fine. 2 points and an assist, whatever. And the Pacers enter the second quarter. I think they were down 4-2. I can't remember. 2. And then in the second quarter, TJ McConnell was the best player on the floor for either team. That includes Giannis having 10 points and 5 rebounds in that quarter. TJ McConnell was everywhere, and the stats are going to sell him short. He only played 5 minutes in the quarter. It was the first 5 minutes. He had 5 points. He had 2 assists. He had 3 steals. He was +7. That is the stretch where the Pacers got back in the lead and got all their momentum in the second quarter, where they got up as high as 12. That was their biggest lead of the game, the biggest lead for either team of the game. The Bucks never got their lead above 7. The Pacers dominated the second quarter, and TJ McConnell was setting the tone. He was driving into the paint. He was getting steals. He was bothering the Bucks. He was throwing a ball to his teammates. He was hitting his little TJ McConnell shots, getting to the foul line, like all this stuff that was so important for the Pacers. He was absolutely massive in setting that tone. And so for the rest of the game, to be clear, Turner and McConnell were still good. Turner was awesome. Turner had 26 and 10 in this game. He had 3 blocks. Myles Turner had the most Myles Turner game ever. He was awesome on a big stage. McConnell finished with 9 points, 4 assists, and 3 steals, +9 in his 11 and a half minutes. That's exactly what you want from your veteran reserves. But why they were particularly important to me in this game, and a story I would like to get to at some point, is a Pacers team showing up for a game that's occasion is so massive on ESPN. They've talked about wanting these opportunities, and they talked about how big the game was. To have 2 vets do that, set the table, get the team going, keep them steadied and level-headed. I thought that was huge. Bruce Brown was good at moments tonight, right? Aaron Nesmith, who's been in the finals, was good for moments tonight, especially on defense. The whole bench was. But McConnell is the reason the bench was good, and Turner is the reason the starters could stay with it early, with Buddy Hield having an off shooting night and Haliburton's impact kind of coming as the game progressed. Those 2 vets were vital to me. But everybody else got it done throughout the whole game and in the second half, and Tyrese Haliburton really got it done late in the game. And boy, do we have a lot of other players in moments to talk about from an absolutely fantastic, awesome game from the Pacers, who are headed to the in-season tournament finals on Saturday night against the Lakers. So much more to cover today. Before we get to any of it, though, we're going to talk about the lovely people over at Prize Picks, who are making daily fantasy sports made easy. It's so simple. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. For example, Anthony Davis on the Lakers, more than or less than 2 blocks. Damian Lillard, who played the Pacers tonight, more than or less than 4 3-pointers made a game. Those are some of the many examples of prize pick selections you can make on a given night. Altogether, 2 to 6 players. And with basketball and football rolling at the same time, you can do their specials league, which combines sports. For example, LeBron James plus Travis Kelce at a 10.5 combo of 3-pointers made plus receptions. They also have a reboot policy on prize picks, so your entries stay in even if one of your players gets injured. How about that? No frustrations if there's injuries. You can get rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Go to prizepicks.com, check all of this out. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100 at prizepicks.com/LOCKEDONNBA. Once again, that's prizepicks.com/LOCKEDONNBA, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for that first deposit match up to $100 at Prize Picks. Daily fantasy sports made easy. Thanks as always for making Locked On Pacers your first listen today and every single day. Your second listen has to be Locked On Bucks. Get the latest from the other side of this. Bobby Portis apparently ripping into his team in the locker room postgame. The Bucks, like I said at yesterday's show, at times this season have not felt as good as their record. Clearly, they agree, frustrated with their play in this game, and that's up in part, again, to me, more proof that the Pacers did play very well and better than the Bucks for significant portions of this game, despite the score. The Pacers imposed their style and just really were not making threes, right? This is jarring. Like, obviously they won, so there's no point of really digging into this. But the Pacers made 7 threes. They never win that way this season. And for much of the game, the Bucks were over 40% from deep. And the Bucks also did better at the foul line. But the Pacers punished them inside and did so many other things well. And I don't have a lot of time to talk about this. I didn't put this into my notes. But a big thing in this game to me, Pacers, low turnovers like usual. They only had 9, 12 for the Bucks. They won the rebounding battle, 51-46. That is not typically a Pacers thing. They got a ton of late offensive rebounds that were important, and those extra possessions against a team like the Bucks that have stars that can score matter. Pacers took 6 more shots than the Bucks in this game. That mattered a great deal in a win by less than 10 points. We have to talk about basically every player on the Pacers and their role in this victory, because everybody did something of value. But there's no point of not starting with Tyrese Haliburton and talking about him for a long time, perhaps the entire next 10 minutes of this podcast. What is there left to say, right? That's what Caitlin and I discussed when we did our 16 and 16 and talked about every player after 16 games. She's out of words. We're out of superlatives to discuss Tyrese Haliburton's play. There's like, and that's why I think the default, and I said this with Derek Schultz earlier this week, has been MVP conversation, because we're out of like normal words to say. Let's just talk about the highest thing we can say for an NBA player in December basketball. So Tyrese Halber, like I said, has never played in a game of this magnitude in the NBA, and he knows it, and he's on ESPN, a platform he has craved, right, to show how good he can be. He's got Adrian Wojnarowski talking before the game about him recruiting players to play with him in Indiana. That kind of allure, right? That's unbelievable. He's got Reggie Miller on the call, a Pacers legend. So much of this game can put Tyrese Haliburton on the map in a way that, beating the Celtics at home obviously was significant in the quarterfinals. The Pacers had a ton of buzz this week, but this was more like it is wild how much of the NBA world is here in Las Vegas right now. Like it's wild that they let me in the building. And so to see all of it, it's almost anyone would be starstruck there. And Tyrese Haliburton is the guy that everybody wants to see because of how well he's playing. And on that stage, he's got to play well. Even if he's whatever feeling before the game, it's a different experience. He had to step up. He had to show everybody that he's ready for the moment. He and his team are ready for the moment. That's something he keeps stressing. It's about the team, not him. It's about the team. And so I thought that he did everything that he needed to do. I mean, because I'm out of words, like it's hard to not say that this was the perfect game for Tyrese Haliburton on this stage against his hometown team with that kind of attention. He goes out and has a ho-hum, but pretty good first half. Good enough, right? 4 for 8, 11.7 assists. That's pretty good. +7. The Bucks were struggling with them. They don't have good perimeter defenders, but he tore them up still. But he still showed why he's so special. And then the second half, the Bucks went zone. And I get why they did that. In fact, it worked very well for significant stretches of the third quarter when the Bucks made this comeback and were looking like the better team. But this is the part of Tyrese Haliburton that I think, I'm including myself in this category, is covered the worst of his marquee skills and marquee abilities. In a game with adjustments, Tyrese Haliburton figures it out first. He's the first guy of every player, of every coach, of every person watching who figures out, here's what the adjustment can be to help the Pacers win. And that has been my thesis and theory for why they are always better after the first quarter. And they've actually been better at starts this season. And I think some of that's just because Haliburton's been a better player, but their starting lineup fits better. There's a lot of reasons for that. But in general, over the course of the game, they get better. Last year, that was a big deal for them. For those of you who are catching up on the Pacers because of this win, last year they stunk in first quarter. So many slow starts. They were always ascending after that. And this game, right, they were down in the first quarter. Haliburton figures some stuff out along with McConnell. They were up 12. The Bucks go zone. That adjustment worked great. Haliburton figures out the answer quick. Attacks, splits the middle of the top of the zone, gets into the paint where he can make his passes, gets into spots where he can hit floaters. And oh, by the way, what kind of shots are typically available against the zone? Threes. Well, he's great at those. That's something he's been fantastic at his whole life, including college. 40% three-point shooter. Guess what percentage of threes he made in the second half of this NBA game? 40%. Right? When he figured out what the Pacers needed to do to carve up this Buck zone, he did it. He drove into the paint. He set up the right plays. He got the right players in the right spots. He was running in transition. And he was brilliant. 16 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists for Tyrese Halber in the second half. In the second half of a game. That's an awesome whole game for several players. In fact, every player on the Pacers roster, if they have that night, I'm saying, what a good night for them. That was a half for Tyrese Haliburton. It's crazy to say this, and Rick Carlisle alluded to it after the game. He had 27 and 15, which sounds just like an unbelievably and fake stat line. And that's like close to his averages this season. So this game is not accounted in his stats. He's currently averaging 26.9 points and 11.9 assists per game. Including this game now, he's closer to 27 and over 12 assists per game, certainly. I mean, it's just insane what he's able to do. And in the fourth quarter specifically, winning time on the line, he plays the final 9 minutes and 2 seconds, and he has 7 points and 3 rebounds and 3 assists, including a signature shot, right? Another one. I don't know which one will be thought of as the Tyrese Haliburton shot, the Bucks one or the Celtics 3 where he got fouled by Jaylen Brown when they were tied. I think the closeness of the game makes the Celtics one feel a little more meaningful, but this one against the Bucks, 5-point game late. The game is still hanging in the balance at that point, right? It's 119-114. He actually misses a shot before this, but gets his own rebound, an offensive rebound with a minute to go. Pacers on the offensive glass late. I mean, that changed the game. They saved themselves in those moments. But to get his own offensive rebound, reset, get Brook Lopez and Malik Beasley all turned around and in a mix, step back 3, buries it, 8-point lead, 50 seconds to go, the dagger on ESPN on national TV. And then to have the moxie to do the point at the watch celebration against Dame. And Tyrese Haliburton said that's because he thinks it's his group's time, it's the Pacers' time. I mean, yeah, I believe him, but I mean, we all know what was happening there. Damian Lillard gave him a lot of props after the game for that, by the way. If you see any quotes that make it sound like Damian Lillard was being inflammatory towards Tyrese Haliburton's celebration, they are totally not portraying correctly what Dame said. I was there. I saw him say it. Anyway, unbelievable shot, unbelievable moment, unbelievable way to cap off a game. Tyrese Haliburton is 23. He has never played in a game like this in his NBA career. His team has not played in a game like this in his NBA career. And he was everything. He was everything the Pacers needed to be. And by the way, again, 0 turnovers, right? He has another stretch like this where he's scoring like crazy. He has 0 turnovers combined his last 2 games. He's finding all of his teammates, and he's not giving up the ball. He's not making mistakes. His peak level is so high that other teams just can't stop him. The Bucks had no answers. They did not have a perimeter guy to put on him. They could not figure out how to slow him down. And that means it's impossible to go on runs if you're the Pacers' opponent. Tyrese Haliburton's going to stop it. The Pacers are going to stop it. They're going to score. And like I said yesterday, to me, the Pacers were going to win this game, not by stopping the Bucks, but by outscoring them. And they did it. Tyrese Haliburton's offense was ridiculous. He's at a level that he's probably been a top 5 to 8 player, maybe even higher than that, honestly, in the league this season. You can that people keep talking about the MVP conversation. I hate that phrasing, but he's earned that. At least people saying that is not an insane compliment to say. He's playing that well. He's at that level. And he's going to get talked about. The next 2 days, he's going to get a ton of buzz, a ton of press, and it's going to be well-deserved because he's ascending into a new tier of NBA player. His leap is happening right before our eyes, and it was another epic night for Tyrese Haliburton, who can do it against the king of kings, LeBron James, on Saturday in the finals. We got a lot of Pacers role players to talk about and the Lakers for a few seconds to close out today's show. But before we get to any of that, got to talk to you guys about the lovely people over at Jase Medical, who are making the Jase case, doing a lot of stuff, quite frankly. That is extremely helpful. I know you come to sports to escape from some of the crazy realities of real life. We got to talk about preparing for real life. According to the EDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. That's scary. It's got to be helpless. If a significant other or someone important in your life was sick and a supply chain issue kept them from getting life-saving medication they needed, well, that's going to be fine if you've got Jase Medical. The Jase case is a 5-pack of different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinusitis, skin infections, among many others. And this stuff can happen to anybody. But if you visit jasemedical.com and complete your physician encounter, they'll review it, a board-certified physician will, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy for a fraction of the regular cost. You can be prepared. They're shipped to you, so you do not have any issues having those meds or dealing with supply chain issues when you need them for any of those issues. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jasemedical.com and use the offer code, Locked On. You'll get $20 off your order. I have a Jase case myself. You should get one. Jase Medical, Jase Medical.com. Use that code Locked On for $20 off your order. Back here on Locked On Pacers, thanks for making us your first listen today and every single day. For your second listen, I was on Locked On Sports today talking about the Pacers from the arena, of course. The story of the NBA right now, except maybe LeBron can have a chance at taking that after his epic night. The Lakers kick some butt. Also, Locked On NBA for the latest on the in-season tournament. And I will recommend Locked On Lakers, of course, for the next Pacers opponent's perspective here. Looking like a 7-podcast week here on Locked On Pacers. So perhaps a crossover with the Lakers guys tomorrow. If not more, the buzz from Vegas. I'll talk some Lakers. There's a lot to cover with this team. And, of course, Sunday will be a post-game show after Pacers, Lakers. So many more guys deserve praise for their play in this Pacers-Bucks game. We've talked about TJ McConnell and his key stretch in the second quarter, Myles Turner's key start, Tyrese Haliburton's epic night. One guy who unfortunately has to have two things said about him, who changed the game, was Andrew Nembhard. The second half, like I said, was the only credible stretch where I thought, the Bucks could win this, was in that mid to late third quarter when they took the lead back and held it from 3 to 5 for about 6 minutes. And Andrew Nembhard came in because Bruce Brown was kind of stinking in that stretch where the Bucks were doing really well. He had some couple foul issues. They brought in Andrew Nembhard, and he defended Dame. Dame got going to open the second half. Dame had 16 points in the third quarter, right? And that's in that quarter where the Bucks made all that run. He finished the night with 24. So he had 8 points in the 3 quarters. Once they got Nembhard on him, he completely slowed down. All his water was shut off after that epic stretch, and Nembhard played a huge, huge part in that. But the other thing he did well is in a quarter where the Bucks were scoring like crazy, the Pacers have to score to keep up or it's going to get out of hand. The Bucks scored 43 points in the third quarter. Nembhard came in and went 4 for 4 and made all of his shots and had 8 points. I just said 4 for 4 and made all of his shots. That's the same thing. But he went 4 for 4 and defended well in that stretch to stabilize the Pacers for 6 key minutes to end that frame. He was awesome when they needed him, right? He wasn't turned to that much in the first half, but in the third quarter when they needed him, he was huge. In the fourth quarter, for the 5 minutes he played, he was once again great on defense. He had a nice assist. He had a nice steal. And then he got hurt. It's hard to tell. Rick Carlisle said maybe it's just a hyperextension, but he really hurt his knee. He had to be carried off the floor. Such a bummer. I still think he's maybe the most underrated player on the Pacers for his two-way play and a decent factor in their success. TJ McConnell's been great, so they'll be fine at backup point guard, but that is a blow. If they're going to miss him for any amount of time, that hurts. And he was playing very well in that game. And in a huge moment, I don't think they get this win without him because the Bucks were rolling and he slowed them down and he slowed down their momentum. Huge pivotal stretch from him. Isaiah Jackson was flawless to me. His defense was ridiculous. He was getting the rebounds. He was 5 for 7 from the floor. I hate beating this drum again, but he's got to be killing himself for his preseason because every appearance he's made in the regular season, you've been like, yep, Isaiah Jackson did awesome. He did his job. He looks better. He looks like he's way more focused. He's making his shots, but he was not good enough in the preseason. And Jalen Smith took his job. And Jalen Smith has been better than Isaiah Jackson during the season. But if you didn't give him a chance to take the job, I think Isaiah Jackson would have been the Pacers' backup 5. He was great. Awesome protecting the rim, making his shots. Only one block. The stats aren't going to show it, but he was fantastic. Plus 14. He was a part of huge Pacers bench stretches. Speaking of huge, Aaron Nesmith's defense was amazing. He was their best Giannis matchup all night. No one was good at it, but he was the best at it by a mile. Big credit to him. And Mathurin, off night, certainly, but made some key shots, defended well, had 6 rebounds. All the bench really was connected. Most of them had major plus minuses, and that was the difference in the game. The Bucks bench was terrible, and the Pacers bench really walloped them. They were able to stick with them for longer, get their starters, key rest, and winning the they won the Giannis minutes also, but winning the non-Giannis minutes was significant in this game, and the Pacers did that. They won the non-Dame minutes by a ton. Damian Lillard was plus 6. That means the Pacers were plus 14 when he was out. Those were huge successes for the Pacers because Giannis is going to kill them. They've got to succeed when those guys aren't in the game. And they did. They won the non-Giannis minutes. They won the non-Dame minutes. And that was massive for their success. Their bench was so huge. Every single one of them played a significant role. I just talked about Bruce Brown's crappy stretch in the third quarter. Can't sell him too short. In the fourth quarter, he was awesome. And he did all the like every game. You just look and he just, barely turns it over. Is their best day matchup by a mile, like outside of the third quarter. 10 and 3-1. Great. You'll take it. And Obi Toppin, my X factor from yesterday. Well, how about that? Played more, was their primary honest guy of the starting lineup. 14 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 6 for 8 from the field, only 1 for 3 from deep after I gushed about his improved 3-point shot. But you get the idea. He was really solid on his way to 14 points. Buddy Hield, without making a 3, somehow found his way to 8 points. But if you just looked at that from Buddy Hield, you'd think he had a bad game. He still played 30 minutes because, one, the spacing as usual. They played them even in Buddy Hield's minutes, despite him going 0 for 6 from 3. They were even in his minutes because he was awesome on the glass. Buddy Hield with 11 rebounds. That led the game, not the Pacers, the game. Every player was out-rebounded by Buddy Hield. That is massive. He was an energy guy today, and his defense was not bad. He was all over Malik Beasley, who was 3 for 9 and 1 for 4 from 3. Credit to Buddy Hield. I know his defense gets mocked a ton for sometimes good reason. And if he's missing shots, sometimes it can be tough to have him out there. But he found other ways to get involved. 2 steals and a block in this game, 2 assists as well. Everybody who played for the Pacers found a way to have an impact, right? The guy who struggled the most was probably Mathurin, and even he made key shots and hit the glass. And they needed to hit the glass in this game. And everybody who played filled a role. And that is what a team who's trying to win a game like this, the biggest game of their season, put themselves on the map. That's what they have to do. And they did it. It was true. You would not have known the Pacers were this young, inexperienced team. I still don't really think people will realize that who don't watch them much, right? Obi Toppin on his rookie deal. Tyrese Haliburton on his rookie deal. Aaron Nesmith on his rookie deal. Ben Mathurin's on his rookie deal. Isaiah Jackson's on his rookie deal. Andrew Nembhard is on his second-round pick, so not really, but rookie deal, his first contract. So that's 6 of their 10 guys who played in this game were on their first contract. And the 4 who aren't are TJ McConnell, Buddy Hield, Myles Turner, and Bruce Brown. But Myles Turner and Bruce Brown are about 27. And Myles Turner has experience. But this is still a young, growing team. Lots of them together for a while. The fact that they were able to look like this poised, veteran, level-headed team on such a big stage against such a quality opponent says so much to me about what they can be. I still have, they're still going to be up and down this season, right? Their defense is still 20-whateverth in the league, bottom 5. They're going to have nights where they lose games they should win because they can't get stops and their offense falls just short. But when they are all together, when their offense is clicking, they are just so tough to beat. They're such a composed group at their best, and they know how they want to win. And when they do it, they look phenomenal. And they did in this game. And now I actually think for them, this is better. They get the Lakers in the finals. The Lakers are better. Like if they wanted to win the in-season tournament, playing the Pelicans would have been better, air quotes. But for their journey, beating the top 4 teams in the East last year already in the in-season tournament, beating LeBron a kryptonite for the Pacers in many playoffs, beating the Lakers, the most popular NBA team in the world, in the championship game would be awesome. I'm not saying they will. In fact, the teams that the Pacers have struggled against the most this season, really good defenses like Orlando, like Boston. The Lakers are a really good defense. They could be a very tough matchup. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But from a narrative perspective, and for a team like the Pacers who is trying to show America what they are and ascend, it's the perfect opponent. It's going to be awesome to cover, and we will here on the Locked On Pacers podcast. We are literally here, and we'll have a lot to talk about tomorrow and the next day here from Vegas. Hope you guys are enjoying these shows and my stories over on SI. Lots and lots to break down from Las Vegas, and we'll have it all. I've had some fun stories today. People seem to be liking everything that can be said about this Pacers team. I'm on Twitter if you want more about the Pacers, at Tony R. East, and this show is there at Locked On Pacers for the latest from the Locked On Pacers podcast. Back tomorrow talking in-season tournament, talking Vegas, talking Lakers. We'll have it here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a fantastic day, and if I don't see you until Monday, have a great weekend. Till then, everybody, we'll see you soon.